Hello, everyone, and welcome to our vlog for today, stepping into transformation. And so this year has been a 7-year, numerologically speaking. And that just means that we are really coming inward. There's a lot of looking inside of ourselves this year. And so with that, we're all going through a transformation. But before we get into our talk about transformation, I want to let you know about my viewpoint on transformation. Transformation to me is not about becoming someone new or something new. To me, what transformation is the process in which you become that which you already are. So it's really this transformation to me is this process of peeling back the layers of everything you're not to reveal that which you are. And one wonderful way that we can begin to do that is through self-inquiry. And self-inquiry isn't anything new, but it's not something that we do a whole awful lot of, because we are very apt to question the divine, to question the divine essence that we are. But boy, howdy, we do not question our egos. And that's what self-inquiry is. Self-inquiry is a way to help you to discern in situations when you are present in your presence and when you are instead focused on the ego. And so you can either do it, there's tons of different ways. And two ways that I find really helpful is either way number one, and that is with Ramana Maharshi's way. Who is the I? It's just, who is the I that is feeling this? Who is the I that is experiencing this discomfort? Who is and just kind of asking yourself that question, who is the I? And that's one way. Another way is with Byron Katie's The Work. And it's a set of 4 questions that you ask yourself. And you can just look up Byron Katie, The Work. And I mean, she has tons of free stuff, including the questions that you can ask yourself. And these questions are designed, again, to help you to begin to discern between what is my ego and what is my divine presence. And again, peeling back those layers of everything that you're not. You are not your ego. We oftentimes think that we are our ego or our personality or our body or our role or our job or our this or our that. And those things are not what we are, because those things are actually limits. We are limiting ourselves by identifying ourselves with those things. I'm just a spiritualist. I'm just a card reader. I'm just a brother. I'm just a son. I'm just an entrepreneur. I'm just a dog walker. I'm just an owner of a dog. I'm just an owner of a home. I'm just an owner of a car. I'm just a human being. I'm just a this. I'm just a that. And each one of those is a limit that we're putting on ourselves when we, in essence, are unlimited. And you may be asking yourself, well, what is my divine presence? Or what is presence? What is it to me? What does it mean to be present? And, I really think Eckhart Tolle says it best. It's unnameable. That's it. The presence that you are is unnameable, which means we can't put it in a box. The ego can't describe presence because there are no words to truly describe the unlimited nature, the unnameable, the unknowable that we truly are. And we can only really get a glimpse of it, not by conceptual thinking, but by feeling it, by experiencing that which we are. And that's what self-inquiry can help us to do. It can help us in peeling back those layers, and it can help us in discerning that and really getting to feel what it feels like to be present, to be here, to be now. And that's That's it. That's how you step into transformation or one way that you can step into transformation is simply by starting to ask yourself the question. Because, around this time, around the end of the year, that's when this saying starts to kind of float around. New year, new me. Well, what if we said, you know what, forget that? Because this new year, new me, if we look at it from this perspective of transformation, and again, transformation, just from my viewpoint, is the process of peeling back that which is not you to reveal what is. And so if we kind of be like new year, new me, and I'm going to be this, and I'm going to be that. And what are you doing? You're building a new self. You're building a new identity. And that identity may be a lot better than the one that you've been living. And that's fantastic. But what if instead of new year, new me, what if we stepped into new year, true me? And really living more present, really living more from a state of presentness, of nowness, of our own divine presence. Just considering, how would your life be different if you chose to truly step into transformation? And when we have this self-inquiry, it's not about, don't fall into the trap that I did, okay? That you are asking yourself, who is the I that is angry right now? Who is the I that is upset? Who is the I that is feeling this or perceiving this? Don't step into judgment. It is an observation. You're merely like, oh, okay, well, I've slipped into default of my ego. Okay, it's not a good thing, nor is it a bad thing. It's merely something that happened. And I know for me, I would be like, oh man, I slipped into my ego. And what's starting? It's a whole story, right? Like a whole storyline starting. Oh, I should know better. And oh, this is this. And oh, that. Don't fall into that. Just merely observe it. Okay, I slipped. I went into ego. All right. And as my very good spiritual friend said to me, instead of, I fell off the unicorn or I slipped into my ego, I'm choosing again. Because that's a core principle of A Course in Miracles. In every moment, you get to choose again. You get to say, you know what? I did fall into my ego. I can acknowledge that. I can recognize that. I'm not going to judge it as good or bad, but I am going to choose in this moment. I'm going to choose again. I'm going to choose to come back to this present moment. I'm going to choose to come back into now and not lament or wallow in the past where I slipped. I'm going to say, okay, I'm going to choose again, and I'm going to be present in this here and now as I am inquiring about, okay, well, who's the I that judged this? Who's the I that did this? Or, Byron Katie's 4 questions. Is it true? Is it really true? Who would I be without this thought? Type of inquiry. And that's it. And it really is so simple, but we have a tendency to let the ego kind of have stuff, and then it gets like complicated, and then it's like, well, I got to do this, and I got to do this, and I got to. No. Who is the I that's feeling this? Okay, that's my ego. Is that the truth of who I am? No. Okay. I want to come back into it. I can forgive myself if that's something you want to practice. Again, something from A Course in Miracles. So I forgive myself for seeing this through the eyes of my ego. I forgive myself for letting this story get the best of me. And I am choosing to come back to here and now. Done. Simple, easy. Or, okay, who is the I? It's my ego. Okay. And let's move forward in this now moment. In this present moment, not from the past, but in this now moment. And that is how we step into that transformation. That's how we can begin to embody more of the truth of who we are, because we are more aware. Something else Eric Tolle says about the ego is our ego is just our unconsciousness. It's just our default program. That's all it is. And it's just and this is kind of like Joe Dispenza in there too, but it's just a program that's been running for so long that it's our default, that we think that's who we are and that's what we are. And that there's nothing else to us. That's it. I'm just my role. I'm just this personality. I'm just this body. I'm just whatever this body, maybe this body has a certain condition. So I am just this condition, or I'm just this mental condition, or I'm just this level of wealth, be it impoverished or, billionaire, trillionaire, or whatever else, or I am just my childhood traumas, or I am just my traumas. Those are all limits, and they are limits that you are placing on that which is unlimited. And that's why that self-inquiry is so important, because it helps to peel away those limitations that you're putting on yourself, like a banana. It's because I was just peeling a banana there. So that's what it's like. It's just peeling back the skin to reveal the truth. And that's all that transformation is. It's not about becoming someone new or something new. It's just about unveiling the beauty that you already are. And, I was thinking today, like, well, then how is it that, then who am I? Well, there you go. Who am I? And when we question ourselves about that, we're like, okay, well, who am I? Well, I don't know. Well, that's okay that we don't know who we are without this role, without this thing, then that's the process of rebirth. And it's not about making something new and be like, okay. And I will tell you this story to kind of illustrate that. So, from a very young age, I always knew I wanted to be a teacher. It was just something I was like, I want to teach. I thought it was so inspiring. I just loved my first grade teacher. She was an inspiration to me to be like, I want to teach, because I loved just to see how she could impact so many people in like just a short amount of time. And she was sharing her knowledge and sharing her wisdom. And it was just amazing to me. And so from then on, I was like, I want to be a teacher. That's it. And so I went through, did everything I was going to do and became a teacher. Now, was it the teacher I necessarily wanted to be? No, not at that point. But I realized that was the teacher I needed to be, that I needed to work in that field, because I tried to do older kids and that just didn't work out for me. But the younger ones, that really worked for me. That was great. It was wonderful. But here's the thing. It became my identity. I became Mr. Ron, the teacher. Mr. Ron, who works at KinderCare on, Rangeline Road. That's who I was. That's who I thought I was. I built a whole personality around that. And it wasn't until I left there and that I went into a 6-month depression, because I didn't know who I was without that job. I didn't. I had no idea. That was my own inner transformation. That was my process of being like, oh my God, all these things I thought I was, I'm not now. So what am I? What do I do? It was a complete ego collapse. And then I found the Course in Miracles. And then you want to know what happened? I started to identify myself with A Course in Miracles. I started to be like, well, I'm a Course in Miracles student now, and that's it. That's who I am now. And because the ego loves to identify, loves to be like, this is who I am now. I am just this thing. And so I started to get obsessed with it. And I was like, this is it. This is my life. And it wasn't until someone had messaged me, like I was messaging with someone back and forth on Facebook, and we were talking, and I was just kind of sharing some wisdom with this person from A Course in Miracles. And they were like, oh, well, the Course in Miracles, is false light. Let me tell you, the ego rose up and did it roar. And I didn't say any of this over the thing, but I was venting. I was like, oh my gosh, how dare you? And why was I so perturbed? Well, when I started to ask myself the question, well, who's the I that's really mad here? Like, it was just kind of like a moment of clarity where, the essential essence of who I am, that present moment made me available to be like, wait a minute, why am I angry? It's a book. It's a book of teachings. It's a great book of teachings, but it's just a book. Why am I so angry that this person is questioning it? Like, why am I angry? Well, and then that's when the awareness started to come. That's when I was like, oh my goodness. I have attached myself, my identity. I went from one identity to another. And that was it. And I just had that realization. And I could actually thank that person and be like, thank you so much for bringing this to my attention. And of course they were like, oh, yeah, it's false light. And I was like, well, it's not so much about that, but my attachment to it, that I had to defend it. And I didn't have to defend anything. Because again, it's just a book. It's a great book, wonderful book, full of great teachings, but just a book full of words nonetheless. And so that's where my journey of self-inquiry and just kind of looking at things started. Is it over? No, I still have to do self-inquiry. Do I need to choose again? Yes, just like everybody else. And that is the beauty of transformation. There is an end point. It's not that, don't think that you have to just keep on doing it and it's never going to end. It does end. Because what you start doing is you start being more present. You start being more aware, because again, what is our ego? It's just our own unawareness of our stories that we're telling ourselves, or the roles that we play, and our identification with them, or our identification with books. And so this is just one way of stepping in to transformation. So I thank you for joining me. I thank you for being here. And I look forward to talking with you soon. Bye for now.